Вибачте, починаємо традиційний в цій порі брифінг полковника Анатолія.
We begin the briefing of the spokesperson of Security and Defense Council Analytical Center, Colonel Lysenko. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. President of Ukraine, Petro Poroshenko, had a meeting with a special representative of the chair of OSCE and in the of the contact group Highly Talyavini. Such a meeting of contact group of between the three parties should take place as soon as possible for Russia to start a real ceasefire on the 9th of December. Special representative underlined that Minsk agreement and a protocol from September 5, a memorandum from September 19, 2014 is the base for peaceful regulation of the situation of Ukraine. The head of the state and special representative of OSCE agreed on coordination of further activities on the realization of a peaceful regulation in Donbas. The situation in ATO area is not easy. During the last day, terrorists shelled 55 times upon positions of our forces, and as a result, we lost one military man, and 9 got wounded. The highest activity of militants was observed in near Debaltsevo, and using a ground system, 4 times they shelled upon the position of Ukrainian military men, and near Debaltsevo, and 5 times near Chernukhino and Mius. They fired upon Nikishina, Artemova, Yunokmonarevska, Malorlivka, Novorlivka, Kralovo-Ivanivka, and near Debaltsevo. Our sanitary vehicle got into a trap, and the attack of militants was fought back, and the enemy has losses. And near Donetsk, they were shelling upon the airport, and then Avdiivka, upon Avdiivka and Opitne. The airport is under control of Ukrainian armed forces, and the groups of fire support are ready to fight the enemy back. And in the there was a duel between our artillery and enemy's artillery in the north of Luhansk. The fire units of the enemy were destroyed, and others had to move back and stop fire. Along Bakhmutivska highway, terrorists attacked Krimsky, Turkhizbenka, Frunze, and Zolota. Near Mariupol, there was a battle near Mykolaiivka. Mortar fire was upon our forces near Chermalika and Novoselivka. Military veterans and people from Kalinivka, from Vinnytsia region, helped with humanitarian assistance to our guards and national guards, and also they provided medicine. That colonel in retirement, Farina, personally delivered assistance to the front line, specialist thanks to Kalinivsky machine building factory, and they provided furnaces, little furnaces, which are very necessary for our military men. And you can use them not only as heaters, but also you can cook on them, so they're quite universal. As to the situation in cities and towns, in Donbas, there are fights between different gangs of militants, and there is quite a big danger for civilians. And according to operational information, as a result of the fire between different terrorist groups in Donetsk, and 10 civilians died. The number of wounded is not known. The security service of Ukraine continues to get weapons from illegal use and to capture militants, and they found 8 supporters of terrorists during those days. In Slovyansk, security service of Ukraine found a big arsenal of weapons and from a citizen of Ukraine who participated in battles against Ukrainian armed forces. And in the garage, security service, they found 1,000 of shells, 2.45 millimeters, 7.62, two guns of Makarov, then grenades, two grenade launcher, and hunting rifle, 14 shells for Makarov, and a Kalashnikov, and also camouflage.
So in Luhansk region, the security service have detained a 37-year-old informator of the militants who held their armaments in his flat. The abettor of the terrorists was collecting the coordinates of the location of Ukrainian military units and through couriers sent them to the headquarters of the militants. When his dwelling was searched, they found a cache with a huge number of firearms, 2 carbines, a machine gun and hand grenades, and almost 1,200 rounds and signal pistol. He confessed that the entire arsenal was given to him by the militants for temporary storage. Another 6 terrorists of the so-called DNR were detected and detained by our counterintelligence service in Debaltseve and Slovyansk. They were the residents of settlements where the units of armed forces of Ukraine were located, and they have personally collected information about the movement of military machinery and the number of Ukrainian military and their armaments. Everybody is testifying at the moment. Another cache of armaments was detected together with a militia battalion in an abandoned house next to Slovyansk. 2 anti-tank grenade launchers and a grenade were confiscated. Over the last 24 hours, the number of temporary IDPs was over 600 people. This is 5 times less than used to be every day during the last week. The general number of IDPs from Donetsk and Luhansk regions as of today is almost 507,000 people. Over the last 24 hours, almost 200 people from the IDPs have applied for medical help. Psychological help was given to 77 people, including 17 children. Over the last 24 hours, the pyrotechnic units of the State Emergency Service have detected and defused 71 ammunition units. This is a very hard and dangerous work. And yesterday, the pyrotechnics are every day detecting dangerous objects left by the Russian mercenaries on the liberated territories of Ukraine. Yesterday, one of the officers was wounded when the explosive device exploded. The information, according to the information of the Ukrtelecom joint stock company, yesterday at 2:24 p.m., the entire volume of telecommunication services was restored to the customers in Donetsk and Luhansk region, and this means internet services and trunk calls in more than 50 settlements. Also, the gas delivery to Raihorodka in Novoaidar district was restored, and this means gas to 550 customers. And the repair works are continued in Stanitsk, Luhansk. The Chancellor of Germany, Angela Merkel, blamed President of Russia, Vladimir Putin, for the Russia's hindering the rapprochement between East European states with the European Union. She meant Ukraine, Georgia, and Moldova, who signed agreements on association proceeding from their sovereign decisions. According to Merkel, Russia violates the territorial integrity of these countries and does not allow to solve frozen conflicts. Today, to Ukraine, the Minister for National Security and MP from Canada, Rob Nicholson, is arriving, and he will hold negotiations with the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, Stepan Poltorak. Canada has been providing the Ukrainian army with support since August by non-lethal equipment and also any questions? First, can you tell us in more detail about the situation at the Donetsk airport? Timchuk says that the old terminal is almost ruined, and yesterday there was fist fighting there. Maybe you have some information about who took part in those battles. On the territory of Donetsk airport, both old and new terminals are ruined. At least there is a possibility to hold defense there, and our guys are doing this with great success. There are shellings and attacks, but this is unsuccessful for the enemy. We understand who is involved in those attacks. Those are Russian military forces commandos and people from the Federal Security Service of Russia and mercenaries who come there from the whole of the Russian Federation, who as if to support the idea of the fake country Novorossiya. I have two questions. Yelena Vasilyeva, human rights activist, said that one of these days, a lot of bodies of Russian military were taken from the anti-terrorist operation zone to Russia, and Dmytro Timchuk says that the units of Russian police are being relocated to Donbas. Is it true? After powerful attacks on the Donetsk airport in the beginning of December, really there was a huge number of killed and wounded among those who tried to seize the Ukrainian airport in Donetsk. And this is not a big news if they were taken to the territory of the Russian Federation, because the majority of them were from the Russian Federation. And that's why we see waves of social explosions, both from the parents of the soldiers of the Russian Federation and from the soldiers themselves. There's a lot of indignation spread around the internet, but we cannot document the information that we would provide you, and we only lean upon the sources that I mentioned. We assume that the number of casualties was real big because the fighting was fierce, and our military, there are moments of truce between the battles when they are given an opportunity to take away the dead bodies, so this does happen. And what was the second question about Russian policemen? The matter is that servicemen from the internal troops of the Russian Federation, they are also taking part in the fighting. The documents have been found, and the fighters as well, and we know that several thousand of internal troops of the Russian Federation are located along the state border of Ukraine and Russia. We had this information as far back as in June, so this is not news for us.
How many Russian soldiers know at the moment in Ukraine, please?
We don't have precise number, but it's about we speak about several thousand of Russian soldiers. several. You see, we don't order Russian armed forces to send a certain number of them to Ukraine. We just receive information from operational sources from Donetsk and Lugansk, and there are units that come from Russia, and they belong to columns that are not announced without insignia, and they cross the border, which is not under control of Ukraine and Russian units. They come to Ukraine as a part of humanitarian convoys. It is on the same level. Approximately several thousand of Russian soldiers are on the territory of Ukraine, and it's not decreasing. Maybe naturally the number decreases, so they could replace those dead with live ones. About negotiations in Minsk, who will represent Ukraine in the contact group, and could you provide more information about negotiations between generals, Russian and Ukrainians in the Donetsk region? We hope that negotiations in Minsk will take place tomorrow. From Ukraine, there will be the same person like before. He is an authorized contact person by the President of Ukraine. We hope that these negotiations will be one of the important steps to establish ceasefire day and to give a chance to our enemy to stop, and to give a chance to OSCE representatives who monitor this conflict to take conclusions. And as a test paper, they will state who breaks the ceasefire. Right after these negotiations, they will have a chance. So we are looking forward for this meeting. We are looking forward for conclusions, and we'll wait for December 10, and it will show how efficient these negotiations will be and how realistic it is, how serious the enemy takes these negotiations. One more question about negotiations. What will happen tomorrow on the line of fire from Ukrainian side? Will you move our forces back, or everybody will wait until decisions? The decision about Ukrainian forces, so there is no decision to pull them back. So there will be tomorrow there, as a result of negotiations, there will be some orders. So tomorrow will it be it will be a day of negotiations and also as a day of silence or ceasefire. So there should be respect to negotiations and to those parties that participate. So we hope that will be the day of ceasefire. What happens if terrorists fire shell upon Ukrainian armed forces? Will there be a response? Ukrainian armed forces will follow Minsk agreements. Even tomorrow, Minsk agreement that was signed on September 5 and 19, that is the ground agreement. And if they shell upon Ukrainian positions, and if we can respond without any damage to local people, we will do that. One more question. We have information that in Avdiivka they started to shell again. Could you comment that? And how critical is the situation there? Is it possible that Russian mercenaries will break through in that direction? I'm not ready to give you a comment because we have data only for the previous day. Colleagues, more questions? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. See you.